All right, so we just got done at Cardone. Tell me a little bit about what happened. How was that experience? And finish it off. Y'all had like a little contest, a little bet. Tell me about that, and then we'll kind of dive into about what you bet about, because you told us.
Yeah, so Grant came to town because he's doing like this city national tour for his new TV show Real Estate King. So he goes to like a different city and meets up with local investors, and Shark Tank style, they pitch him, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be in town. These are just, early guys, newbie investors, but I want you to come on at the end when I'm all done, and let's just chop it up and talk about real estate. You're the multifamily guy in this area. Let's talk about Houston, what rents are like, where you see it going. Then at the very end, we made a bet. And he asked me, he said it's a setup. He asked me, where do you think interest rates are going to be? And as we all know, the Fed's going nuts. They're raising rates blindly. They're not even like pausing to see what happens. And I said, they're going to be up next year. 1 year from today, they'll be up. He's like, I'll take that bet. I bet they're going to be down. Here's $1,000. Let's bet on it right now. I was like, $1,000? I mean, you're a billionaire, man. Come on. I don't even get out of bed for $1,000. Let's make it interesting, right? Because I don't go to Vegas. I don't gamble. I want to do things. But I want to get my blood going. And so I said, well, let's raise it to 10,000, and you're on. I believe rates will be up 12 months from today, which was Halloween yesterday. He thinks rates will be down. So I sent him a little screenshot, and I made sure that we save the date so we know exactly where they're at. I hope he's right. I don't need to win the 10,000. I'm happy to lose the 10,000 because I have properties that have properties that are related to the interest rate environment. So if they're lower, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. I'll be happy to give away the $10,000. But if I win, well, small consolation prize. Maybe I'll go give me some new clothes, or put it back to my favorite charity in some capacity.
So when you guys were talking about that, it's interesting because you were talking about the rates, and with you being in the market as long as you have, and you've been in the market prior to Grant, why do you think the rates have gone like this? Why has the Fed done such a stupid or astronomical job of raising them so much and so quickly?
You're right. So I have been in the market since 2007, and I've seen the ups and the downs of the market. There's been multiple cycles here in Houston, where in many cities all they saw was this upward climb post-recession. Austin, Dallas, double-digit rent growth. Houston has never been like that. Houston has always had some sort of events that slows us down. So I think it made us better operators. So in Houston, we're ready for what's to happen. We're very cash heavy because we know things don't always stay there where they're at. In 2021, that was the first year Houston ever experienced a double-digit rent growth. First year. Dallas, Austin, multiple years in a row up to that. Those are the guys that have to worry about interest rates moving forward because they're not prepared for it. They have not seen a bad environment. They've only seen where rents are constantly going up, and that's not true. It doesn't happen in Houston, but it happens in other areas. The interest rates are going up because the Fed feels that inflation is out of control. And the Fed, in their great wisdom, a bunch of guys here in New York, out of touch, out of sight, living in some ivory tower, want you to stop spending. And their thought is that if you stop spending, then the cost of goods will be less because there's not as much demand. They're going to create a recession. This is an artificial slowdown of the monster economic boom we've been having going back to the Trump years. I mean, we're in double-digit recovery, since the recession, and it's overheated to in their minds, and they want stuff to come down. So they raise rates, they keep raising rates, and they raise some more, and they're even telling you they're going to raise again next time before they haven't even met, because they want to scare you into stop spending. Now, really, what are you going to do? Because you're either contracting in life or you're expanding in life. And anybody that I've ever met that's done anything in life, when there's times of extraction, that's the time to expand. That's the time to open up the marketing dollars, because guess what? Marketing dollars will be cheaper. People are afraid. They go into like turtle mode and they just want to bear it out. And while they're inside in their little turtle shell, the rest of the world's happening. Guys are out there buying deals. Guys are out there trying to grow their company, trying to grow market share while you're in your shell trying to hide.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point, because I was thinking about when this contraction happens and people are expanding. You were on a conference call and he was wanting to get into storage units, and you made a good response of, those are the first things that people are going to contract, are those like little necessities. And what are your thoughts? Like, what are those little necessities will, affect people, like gas, those kinds of things. We had a conversation about that. What do you foresee in that, with rent, with mortgages, how do you think that's going to play out in the next 12 to 36 months?
Yeah, I've seen it before. What happens during these times is that people look for ways to save money. They stop buying that Starbucks. Maybe they're buying it every day. Maybe they go back to buying it once a week, twice a week. Instead of taking the Uber Black, maybe you take the Uber Cheap, whatever that is. And so people go into ways to save cash. They're going to look at those storage lots and they're going to, do I really want to keep paying on this stuff, or do I want to just sell this stuff that's been in the storage locker for 10 years? Now, there's the contradiction to that as well, because when there's slowdown, people double up. They double up and they move all their stuff into storage. That's just what somebody's trying to peddle you to get you to invest in their deal. We are still in a housing shortage right now. And if there's a housing shortage, I don't see people doubling up. I just don't. I think they're going to save where they can. They're going to get rid of those storage lockers and they're going to stay in their house. I think there's there. The people might even become renters. They might even rent to somebody else and go get an apartment because they want to make that extra income. I think most people don't even recognize that whatever their payment is, you can add another several $100s to it, and some people would be willing to pay you. That extra money you're making, you apply it towards your rent house. You still got a spread because there's still a cushion in there, and they're paying your mortgage off for you. So I think you're going to see a lot of first-time landlords learn that it might be cheaper to go rent an apartment than it is to stay in their own house.
And that's a good thing to lead into, because on that call too, it's so interesting that, Grant, we'll talk about that here in a second with getting into his inner circle, but why is it that, Grant is all about, multifamily investing, but when it comes to operations, all the accolades that you have, why is there no education? And this gives a nod to you. Why is there no education, and why is it so important for that education for operations when it comes to multifamily?
Yeah, because there's no education really, because everybody wants to do this and get rich quick. We still live in a microwave society, and the biggest players in the real estate field, what do? Just buy. Grant's one of them, just buys. But he never really operated. He didn't spend his time sitting in that leasing chair. He always, every story I've ever heard Grant tell me, was that he gave it to someone else to do. Now the idea is you can go faster. Because someone else is doing that, but the negative is you don't learn. You don't learn what it takes. It's not sexy to operate. It's not sexy to try to knock on doors, collect rent, or to get the unit made ready. But it's the foundation of what you need to learn so that no one else screws you. It's the foundation of what you need to learn so you understand how to scale your business forward. If you know what the basics are, you know what it's going to take to scale forward. You know that you need education to teach somebody what you know so that you can move forward. Otherwise, you put a manager making $50,000, $60,000 sitting in that chair on a $20 million property. If she doesn't know the fundamentals because you didn't teach her, she's going to run your property into the ground. You're assuming that you hire someone that they know what they're doing. I think that's been a big differentiator between me and everybody else. It's why I've survived the multiple up and down environments. It's why I'm ready for this, recession that's coming, because you have your peace sign generals that have never been punched in the face. They've never seen an economic downturn. You got guys like me that live in this stuff. We were born under fire, right? What's that line from Batman where you had Bane saying, "I was born in the darkness"? Well, that's what Houston has been, right? It's never been this, rosy kind of, high peak towards success. You've always eked it out with always the up and downs. I'm a 2-time national owner of the year for that reason, is that I had to gut it out through sheer grit and heart. And other guys have never seen a bad storm, so they don't know which way to go. They're going to get caught.
And it's funny because Grant, you've got more years on Grant, and so you got to give yourself, obviously a nod to that when it comes to operations. And just to allude into that, we'll get a couple more minutes. How did you get into Grant Cardone? What made you go from Robert Martinez to a Grant Cardone? And then if you can remember to, go out on this, tell me again that story about how Grant told you to play like a gangster and how that paid forward for your future growth in multifamily.
I found Grant Cardone probably back in 2015, 2016. Somebody gave me a book and I read it. It was the 10X book. And I learned a lot of little Grant-isms in this book. And one of them was, success is your duty. Like, you're here for a reason. You're here to grow. You're here to show your kids what success looks like. You're here to show your wife or your husband what success looks like. You're here to show your parents that they made the right upbringing decisions with you. And so you show them what success looks like. And so that really caught my attention when I learned and found those things on Grant. He's got a lot of great ones, but the other one was like, you're either promoting it or demoting it. And nobody knew my story. Nobody knew how good of an operator I was. Everybody knows about the guy buying deals because he tells you about it. But how are you going to know how great I am if I don't tell you? And so when I read that Grantism that, you're either promoting or demoting it, it made a lot of sense to me. I need to share with you my story. I've got to learn how to story tell. And it was through that now I get on stages. Every single stage I get on, I win. Every single one. I don't care who's on stage. And I win them because I lived it. I breathe apartment investing, apartment operations. You can't smoke me on this stuff because I lived it every single day. And it's how I became a 2-time national owner of the year. For the first 11 years of my company, Rockstar Capital, I did the management myself. And it wasn't only until recently, though, where I'm at a position now where I realize, man, I can go a little farther if I third party it. And I can scale. And I can get more talent and IQ in the room. But in the early days, if I didn't learn those lessons, anybody can take advantage of me because any third party company, this is true, has no skin in the game. They didn't sign on the dotted line. They don't have millions of dollars of recourse debt on the line. They're not exposed to interest rate hikes or movements. So if you've got all that in your bandwagon, if you got all that in your head, you make better decisions. But as for the mentorship that I get from Grant, I'm one of his one-on-one coaching students, and I believe before you invest in anything, you better invest in yourself. And before I invest in learning how to become a billionaire, I got to think like a billionaire. So I got to hire a billionaire, and he ain't cheap. So I have $100,000 on this program. It's really 4 coaching calls. First coaching call was, hey, get out of property management and go do third party. And I thought, no, I'm really good at this. And then a year later, I recognized that, man, I could be so much further down the map if I had a third party person. So he was right on that. I now have a third party company managing my deals. The second one was I was involved in this transaction where I'm up against big players who have transacted with the seller before. The seller is a major home builder. The deal is here in Houston, my home market. And so he said to me, you're not going to get the deal. I go, what? He goes, you're not going to get this deal. They've transacted with these other guys before. You're nobody to them. Then he looked at me and goes, how gangster are you? And I'm like, what? He goes, how gangster are you? And I said, hey, man, I can throw down. Let's go. He's like, all right. How much is it? I go, $70 million. That's the purchase price. I go, all right. I want you to send 2% earnest money to the title company, someone that you trust. I want you to find out what the legal name is, do your research, and put 1.4 million, 2% of 70 million, over as earnest money, non-refundable, to that title company. And when it's your time to talk later on that day, because it was the best and final, and I purposely positioned to speak at 4 o'clock, He goes, go through your dog and pony show, tell them why you should get the deal, and then show them that you have skin in the game, that you're putting where your mouth is. And so when I did that, and I said, hey guys, I'm the guy you're going to give this to. I've already wired my money over to the title company, and it's just waiting for you to accept it. So what did you do in that process? You took away the negative against you, and you took away the positive somebody had over you. They were unsure of you. They were unsure that you could close a $70 million transaction. But now by putting $1.4 million hard money, non-refundable, you eliminated that concern for you, right? And so I did that, and you should have seen them. Their faces were just dropped. And for literally 5, 7, 10 seconds, nobody said a word. Again, asked them for the sale. They said, okay, we'll get back to you. 10 minutes later, I get a call from the broker. He goes, man, I have not seen gangster shit like that in 15 years. So the moral to that story is, if you want to become a billionaire, you gotta think like a billionaire. You gotta make billionaire decisions. Dropping 1.4 million for Grant, cash, it's not a big deal. It's a bigger deal to me, because I'm not a billionaire yet. But when I did it, I acted like a billionaire. And in the end, maybe the future billionaire won.